The Cellblock Killer, how one prisoner terrorized an entire facility, the wing that belonged to him. Before you go any further, hit subscribe, like, and comment, because once you step into this cell block, there's no turning back. The first body was discovered just after count. Cellblock D had gone quiet in the way only prisons do, an unnatural silence, heavy and expectant. When Officer Ramirez reached the cell, he knew something was wrong before he saw it. The smell hit first. Metal. Sweat. Something sour beneath it. Inside, an inmate lay motionless on the concrete floor, his body twisted at an angle that didn't happen by accident. There were no visible weapons. No signs of a struggle. Just a message scratched faintly into the wall above the bunk, barely noticeable unless you were looking for it, a simple symbol, crude and deliberate. Within minutes, Cellblock D was locked down. This wasn't the first death in the wing. It was the fourth in 6 weeks. The prison, officially known as Northridge Correctional Facility, was a maximum security institution built to hold men the state classified as unmanageable. Gang leaders. Repeat offenders. Inmates who had already proven they couldn't live under normal supervision. Cellblock D was its core. And for months, rumors had spread through the yard that D no longer belonged to the guards. It belonged to one man. His name appeared in disciplinary reports only as inmate 1427, but inside the prison, he was known by something else entirely. The inmates called him the broker. The officers called him a problem they couldn't prove. No one could say exactly when his control began. Court records show he arrived unremarkable, no high-profile sentence, no gang tattoos that marked him as leadership material. But within a year, the assaults started. Quiet ones. Beatings in blind spots. Threats whispered during showers where cameras didn't reach. By the time the first death occurred, most inmates already knew the rules. You paid protection, or you paid another way. Detective Elaine Mercer from the state's Special Investigations Unit arrived the same night as the fourth death. She had seen prison violence before, but this case unsettled her. The victims weren't rivals. They weren't informants. On paper, they had nothing in common, different affiliations, different charges, different backgrounds. Except for one thing. They had all refused to move cells. That detail didn't come from official reports. It came from interviews conducted quietly, behind closed doors, with inmates who refused to give their names. Men who spoke with their backs to the wall, eyes darting to the door every few seconds. "He runs the wing," one inmate whispered. "Not with fists. With fear." Another said something worse. "You don't see him coming. You feel him. Like pressure." Surveillance footage offered little help. Cameras in Cellblock D malfunctioned regularly, always in the same corridors, always during the same overnight hours. Maintenance reports blamed aging infrastructure. Mercer wasn't convinced. When she reviewed staffing logs, another pattern emerged. Every death occurred on nights when the same 2 guards were assigned to D-Wing. Both had spotless records. Both denied seeing anything unusual. But the timeline didn't lie. At 2:13 a.m., one of the victims had been alive. At 2:41 a.m., he was dead. No alarms. No calls. No sounds reported. Mercer requested cell searches. What they found made the room go still. Contraband phones. Ledgers listing names and numbers. Payment schedules written in code. And the same symbol from the wall, etched onto metal, folded into paper, carved into plastic toothbrush handles. This wasn't random violence. It was organized. Then came the discovery that changed everything. Hidden behind a loose vent panel in an empty cell, investigators found a sealed envelope. Inside was a handwritten list of names. 6 were crossed out. The 7th name at the bottom was circled. It belonged to an inmate scheduled for transfer out of Cellblock D in less than 48 hours. And according to the records, he had already asked for protection. But protection, inside this wing, came at a price. And someone had already decided he hadn't paid it. The price of protection. By morning, the transfer was cancelled. No explanation was given to the inmate. No paperwork error. No emergency override listed in the system. Just a quiet update in the database that erased his exit from Cellblock D. When Detective Mercer saw the change, her stomach tightened. Transfers didn't disappear by accident. Someone with access had intervened. The inmate's name was Daniel Hargreave. 32 years old. Nonviolent offense. No gang affiliation. According to intake interviews, he kept to himself, read obsessively, and avoided trouble. Which, in Cellblock D, was often more dangerous than making enemies. Mercer requested to speak with him immediately. Hargreave sat on the edge of his bunk, hands clasped so tightly his knuckles had gone white. He didn't look surprised to see her. He looked relieved, and terrified. "They told me not to talk," he said before she asked a single question. "Who told you?" Mercer replied. He hesitated, eyes fixed on the floor. "Everyone." Mercer leaned against the wall, careful to keep her voice steady. "Daniel, you were supposed to be transferred. Someone stopped it. Do you know why?" He swallowed. "Because I said no. That was how it worked. The broker never approached you directly. He sent others. Runners. Enforcers. Men who already owed him something. Protection came first as a suggestion. A quiet offer. You pay in commissary, favors, silence. Later, the cost rose. Phone access. Storage. Muscle. And if you refused, you were marked." Hargreave told her about the ledger. How names appeared overnight. How crossed-out names meant someone had been handled. He said the symbol scratched into the walls wasn't a gang sign, it was a warning. A signature. "People think the killer's some ghost," he whispered. "But he's not hiding. He's counting." Mercer left the interview shaken. She had suspected a hierarchy. What she was uncovering looked closer to an internal crime syndicate, one that operated with the efficiency of an organized cartel, shielded by concrete and bureaucracy. She turned her attention to inmate 1427. Officially, he was quiet. Cooperative. No recent infractions. His cell was immaculate. No contraband found during searches. No disciplinary write-ups tied him to the violence. On paper, he was invisible. That made him dangerous. When Mercer finally sat across from him in the interview room, he smiled. "Rough place to work," he said calmly. "People get hurt. That's prison." Mercer watched him carefully. His posture was relaxed. His eyes never blinked too long, never darted. He had perfected the look of a man who knew the system better than the people enforcing it. "For men are dead," Mercer said. "All from your wing." He shrugged. "That wing's always been violent." "And yet," Mercer continued, sliding a photo across the table, "this symbol keeps appearing." His smile faded, just for a fraction of a second. But it was enough. "That's not mine," he said. Mercer leaned in. "Then why does it show up in your handwriting?" The evidence wasn't definitive, but it was compelling. A handwriting analyst had matched the angles and pressure to forms he'd filled out months earlier. Not proof. But pressure. Inmate 1427 stood abruptly. "You're wasting time. The killer's already gone." Mercer froze. "Gone?" He smiled again. "Check your list." Minutes later, her phone rang. Daniel Hargreave had been found in the shower area. Alive, but barely. The attack was precise. No frenzy. No rage. Just enough damage to send a message. Doctors said he would survive, but he would never speak again. His vocal cords had been crushed. The timing was surgical. As Mercer stood outside the infirmary, staring through the glass at Hargreave's bandaged throat, she felt the case slipping into something darker. Someone inside the prison was feeding information to the broker in real time. Someone with access to schedules, interviews, and transfer orders. She turned back towards Cellblock D, where guards moved nervously and inmates watched from behind steel doors. The killer hadn't just claimed territory. He had eyes everywhere. And now, he knew the investigation was closing in. The man no one touched. The prison changed after the attack on Daniel Hargreave. Cellblock D no longer buzzed with whispers. It went quiet. Too quiet. Doors closed slower. Guards hesitated before walking the tier. Even seasoned officers avoided eye contact with inmates, as if fear itself had learned how to stand upright and wear a uniform. Detective Mercer knew the truth now. The broker wasn't just an inmate. He was a system operating inside another system, feeding off gaps in authority, exploiting routine, and weaponizing silence. And someone on the outside of those cell doors was helping him do it. She started with the guards. The two officers assigned to every night of violence were pulled in separately. Both denied wrongdoing. Both repeated the same phrases, word for word. Training, Mercer thought at first. Then she noticed something else. Their reports were identical down to punctuation. Someone had written their story for them. Digging into financial disclosures, Mercer found it. Small deposits. Clean. Spread across months. Nothing large enough to trigger alarms, but consistent enough to matter. Commissary accounts tied to inmates connected to the broker. Guards who suddenly had paid off debts, new trucks, unexplained cash. This wasn't loyalty. It was payroll. The warden resisted when Mercer requested emergency authority to isolate inmate 1427. We move him, the wing explodes, he warned. You pull him out, you create a vacuum. Mercer met his stare. Or we end it. The extraction happened at 3 a.m. Tactical officers entered Cellblock D in silence, shields raised. Doors opened one by one. No resistance. No alarms. When they reached inmate 1427's cell, they found him sitting on his bunk, hands folded, waiting. You're late, he said. As they escorted him down the corridor, something unsettling happened. Inmates emerged at their doors. Not shouting. Not threatening. They bowed their heads. Some pressed fists to their chests. Others stepped back into their cells as if a funeral procession were passing. Mercer watched from the control room, her skin crawling. This man hadn't ruled through violence alone. He had built belief. In segregation, away from Cellblock D, the broker finally spoke without a smile. You think removing me fixes this? He asked Mercer. You saw the ledger. I didn't make those men violent. I organized them. You ordered the killings, Mercer said. He tilted his head. I enforced consequences. The evidence came together quickly after that. Testimony from guards facing charges. Financial records. Recovered phone data. The symbol was decoded, a scheduling mark, not a threat. A countdown. The murders weren't random. They were audits. Men who skimmed. Men who talked. Men who refused to pay. The state announced charges. Conspiracy. Racketeering. Multiple counts of murder. Headlines exploded. The public was told the nightmare was over. Cellblock D was dismantled. Inmates transferred. Staff reassigned. The broker was sent to a supermax facility hundreds of miles away, sealed in a cell designed to erase influence. Mercer should have felt relief. She didn't. 3 months later, a guard at North Ridge was found dead in the staff parking lot. No signs of struggle. No witnesses. Just a folded piece of paper in his pocket. A symbol. The same one from the walls of Cellblock D. Investigators scrambled. Phone records showed no contact with the broker. No messages. No visits. No connection. Officially, he had been completely isolated. Mercer stared at the report late into the night, a familiar chill settling in her chest. She thought of the bowed heads. The silence. The belief. Power, she realized, doesn't disappear when you lock it away. It adapts. The state closed the case weeks later, ruling the guard's death unrelated. An isolated incident. End of story. But Mercer kept the photo on her desk. Because some systems don't need leaders. They just need people willing to remember the rules. And somewhere, deep inside another prison, another wing, someone was already counting. If you think this story was intense, you're not ready for the next one. Make sure you're subscribed, because this wasn't the only killer hiding in plain sight.